In a sunny village surrounded by sunflower fields, there lived a boy named Theo. Theo had bright copper hair, a spray of freckles, and the quickest smile you ever saw. He lived with his grandmother, who kept the most beautiful garden in the village: roses, lavender, tomatoes, and herbs that smelled like summer. But Theo had a problem, a small one at first. He had started telling lies. It started small. One morning, his grandmother asked, "Theo, did you water the seedlings?" Theo hadn't. He'd been playing by the stream instead. But instead of saying so, he said, "Yes, grandmother, I watered them twice." And right there, in the corner of the garden, a strange little plant poked out of the ground. It was dark and prickly, and it hadn't been there before. The next day, Theo broke a flower pot. When his grandmother found the pieces, Theo said, "The wind knocked it over." There was no wind that day, and in the garden, the strange plant grew bigger. Now it had thorny branches that twisted like fingers, and tiny dark leaves that rustled even when the air was still. Theo kept lying, small lies, mostly. "I finished my chores." He hadn't. "I shared my lunch with the other children." He'd eaten it all. "I didn't take the last apple." He had. And with every lie, the plant grew. It spread across the corner of the garden like a dark stain. Its thorns choked the roses. Its roots cracked the path. The bees wouldn't go near it, and the butterflies flew away. One afternoon, Theo sat on the garden wall, staring at the dark, tangled plant. It was almost as tall as he was now. "That's quite a mess you've grown," said a small, prickly voice. Theo looked down. Sitting in the grass was a hedgehog, small and round, with bright black eyes and a nose that twitched with every word. "I'm Nettle," said the hedgehog, "and I know exactly what that plant is." "What is it?" Theo asked. "It's a lie bramble. Every lie you tell, it grows a new thorn." "Can I get rid of it?" Theo asked. Nettle scratched behind her ear with a back foot. "You can't pull it out. You can't cut it down. The only thing that shrinks a lie bramble is the truth. Every truth you tell, one thorn falls off. But here's the hard part. It has to be a truth you're afraid to say. The easy truths don't count." Theo's stomach twisted. He knew what he had to do. He found his grandmother in the kitchen. "Grandmother," he said, and his voice wobbled, "I didn't water the seedlings that day. I was playing by the stream. I'm sorry." His grandmother looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. "I know," she said gently. "The seedlings told me. They were very thirsty." From outside, there came a tiny sound, tink, like a thorn hitting the ground. So Theo kept going. He told his grandmother about the flower pot, tink. He told the other children he hadn't shared his lunch, and he gave them extra the next day, tink, tink. He admitted he'd taken the last apple, and he helped pick more from the tree, tink, tink, tink. Each truth was hard. Each one made his cheeks burn and his heart race. But each time, someone smiled at him, or nodded or said, "It's okay, Theo. Thank you for telling me." By sunset, Theo walked back to the garden. The lie bramble was almost gone. Where it had been dark and tangled, now there was just one thin stem with a single thorn. Nettle was waiting. "One more," she said. Theo thought hard. There was one truth left, the hardest one. He looked at his grandmother, who had followed him outside. "Grandmother, I've been lying to you, not just once, a lot. And I'm sorry. You deserve the truth every time." The last thorn fell, tink, and the stem crumbled into the soil like it had never been there at all. The next morning, something wonderful had happened. Where the lie bramble had been, a new plant was growing. It had bright green leaves, soft white flowers, and it smelled like honey and warm bread. "What is it?" Theo asked. Nettle smiled her prickly little smile. "That's a truth vine. It only grows where someone was brave enough to be honest. Take care of it, Theo. It's yours." From that day on, Theo told the truth. Not because it was easy. It wasn't always. but because he'd learned something important. The truth might make your cheeks burn for a moment, but a lie grows thorns that hurt everyone. And his truth vine? It grew and grew all through the summer, climbing over the garden wall and blooming in the sunlight. The bees came back, the butterflies came back, and Theo's smile, that quick, bright smile, was real now, every single time.